news today. This is the Daily Debate. Even though there is still well over a year to go, prospective candidates in the United States are getting ready for the 2016 presidential race. Senator Ted Cruz has already announced he will seek the Republican nomination, and yesterday Rand Paul threw his hat into the ring. Jeb Bush, brother of George W., is also tipped to run. Among the Democrats, the only prospective candidate spoken about at this stage is Hillary Clinton. And not since the 1960s have there been two successive Democratic presidents in the White House. But the GOP itself is split between moderate and the party Can They Make it to the White House in 2016. And with me, I know, I see your smile. Of course they can, he's going to tell me.
It's a pleasure, but
no chance.
And we didn't even start. With me is Marc Zell, co-chair of Republicans Abroad Israel. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy.
Thank you very much for coming. And also with us is Hillel Schenker, acting chair of Democrats Abroad Israel. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Good to have you here also. Before we will start discussing this, let's talk and see what our viewers have to say about that. Ayman.
Yes, Lucy. Good evening to you and to our guests. So nearly 2 years left till the next U.S. president is elected, but announcements from those who are running for office are already making headlines. Nearly everyone has Hillary Clinton in mind as a potential candidate, but what about the GOP? We put the question to our viewers. We asked them, in the White House race, does the GOP have what it takes for 2016? Let's take a look first at the results of our global poll. As you can see, Lucy, 81% voted yes, that the GOP does have what it takes. 14% voted no. And we received some very colorful comments today, Lucy. Let's take a look at a few. Starting with Michael, who writes, not at the moment, but the Democrats aren't any better off. And this is a worthwhile point to consider. With Hillary Clinton involved in the recent email scandal, many say her odds too have been damaged. Next, David writes, the GOP finally has conservative candidates who are very intelligent and speak eloquently. They also have clear agendas, platforms, and ideas, which previous GOP candidates did not have, he says. So while he's taking a stab here at previous GOP members, David is also saying the new candidates are distancing themselves from the previous ones, possibly to help their chances. Chelsea, though, takes it a step further. She says the GOP has what it takes, just not the two men involved. Jeb Bush is a good candidate, and Condoleezza Rice would make a great running mate. So she's already assembling her dream team here, Lucy, as we all like to do often. But Craig, our last viewer for today, doesn't quite agree that GOP candidates have a chance. He writes, no, they are too crazy. Well, Lucy, the race itself is likely to be crazy as more and more GOP candidates are likely to emerge in anticipation of Obama completing his term. But do they have a chance? Let's see what your guests have to say. Sending it back to you.
Yeah, so I mean, they have a lot to say about that.
Yes.
Right, gentlemen?
Yes, we do.
What, Mark?
Lucy, I mean, I know you invite me on the Daily Debate because I'm crazy. I think that's
No. Yeah.
I love you on the Daily Debate because I just love having you here in the studio.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
So,
especially during this holiday season.
Especially in this holiday season. So let's really talk about it. Is it possible? Is it really a big possibility for the GOP to?
Sure, and I think it's a very good possibility. I mean, the President Obama's approval ratings are below 50% consistently. The American public has about had its fill of his administration. They're looking for a change. The Democratic likely candidate, although she hasn't declared, Hillary Clinton, has a lot of baggage. First, she's not very popular, and just in terms of her own personality, she's got problems with scandals coming up from under the rug left and right. And she, of course, is tainted by her close association with the Obama administration. On the other hand, the Republicans have a really deep bench. I mean, I don't think we're going to see any particular one leading at the outset. Cruz and Rand Paul have declared. Marco Rubio is said to be in the wings. Jeb Bush is ramping up. We've got Governor Scott Walker from Wisconsin, who's generated a lot of interest around the country. John Kasich in Ohio, even Bobby Jindal down in Louisiana, Chris Christie. He's got some issues with him in New Jersey.
He could have been.
He could have been. I think he really kind of self-destructed at this point. On the other hand, there's some. It's really early. It's very early. It's going to be a really interesting primary season on the Republican side, and we'll be looking forward to hearing the candidates talk about the issues and hashing it out before the convention in Cleveland.
Yes, well...
Look how polite Hillel is and waiting
what
for his turn, and then I'll just like...
You haven't let him...
What I like about Cleveland is not the Republican convention, but the rock and roll... the Rock and Roll Museum. I think that's Cleveland rocks, but the Republicans will not. The odds clearly favor the Democrats for two reasons. First of all, one of the major issues in the next elections is going to be foreign policy, and none of the Republican candidates have foreign policy experience. Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and assuming she's going to be the candidate, so she will easily defeat them all when it comes to debates about foreign policy. 6 years ago, the Democrats made history, and America made history when the first black president was elected, and in 2016, the first female president will be elected, Hillary Clinton.
I want to take you to this point, because you're saying about the foreign policy, and of course Israel, but we know very good about the foreign policy, we know very good about security. You know, maybe the Republicans don't have any foreign policy strategy, but let's face the truth.
What's the truth?
Barack Obama.
Obama's...
As far when he was elected, he didn't have a foreign policy, and I don't want to tell you what I think about the foreign policy, because it doesn't exist.
Well, I will tell you, excuse me, Barack Obama has three major foreign policy achievements, which I think are very important in terms of not only American interests, but also in terms of the international situation. The first one is reestablishing relations with Cuba, which is an historic decision. The second one is removing the chemical weapons from Syria. And the third one that is in process is achieving an agreement which will prevent Iran from achieving nuclear weapons. So from that point of view, definitely we have great achievements, but I would like to stress why I think also that the Democrats will probably win. Why don't we
respond to your so-called foreign policy successes?
You can say what you want about foreign policy, but then I'll explain why the Democrats will most likely win in 2016.
Lucy, I mean, first of all, Hillel is out in the upper stratosphere. Cuba, I mean, the so-called achievement in Cuba, which is really a blip on the radar screen in terms of the kinds of issues that the international community is facing today, has been mishandled, just as he's handled all of his negotiations, given away the story before he even started. The second point you talked about was chemical weapons in Syria. Wait, this was the famous red line, the Obama red line, which was transgressed early on in the game. And after all the weapons supposedly left, the Syrians were killing their own population with chlorine gas, just like the Germans did in World War I. And now you talk about Iran. I mean, this is the biggest farce of all. Even the president himself yesterday came out and acknowledged, in what appears to have been a slip of the tongue, that the so-called agreement with Iran, which doesn't exist, by the way, will turn into an Iranian nuclear power in 13 years.
Mark, that is not what he said.
That's as much
that
for
is
your
a total distortion
foreign
of what he
successes.
said.
Let's look at the failures. Let's look at Libya. Let's look at Egypt. Let's look at Daesh, ISIS in Syria and Iraq, Yemen, Ukraine, North Korea, China.
What exactly was John McCain's policy? Go attack Syria?
Don't go.
We should be going and arming the Ukrainians.
You don't have that luxury.
Excuse me.
You don't have the luxury.
The fact is,
you can't go back
that we have
6 years. This president's been on the watch for 6 years, almost 7 years. And he has to live up to his record. And he has failed.
And there are major achievements that I have accounted right now. And now I want to get to the main reason why the Democrats will probably win in 2016 and in all the coming elections, and that is the changing American society, the demography. The fact is that the Republicans appeal to the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, the evangelical Christians, the neocons. The white Anglo-Saxon Protestants are becoming the minority of the American population. The growing majority consist of Latino Hispanics, the largest minority, then the Afro-Americans, and then the Asian Americans. And the Republicans don't appeal to them. It is the Democrats who have a coalition, and of course, we should add the liberal American Jews, who 70% vote for the Democrats. This is the coalition which is going to win in 2016 and in all of the foreseeable national elections.
I mean, let me just bring you back to reality just for 1 second. There was an election just a few months ago in November of 2014, and that new coalition that you're talking about, Hispanics and blacks,
was not motivated
Jews,
to vote in the local elections.
And what happened? The Democrats got their heads handed to them on a silver platter. They lost the Senate. They lost most of the state house races.
Which happens in most midterm elections.
You can make all the excuses you want, but
in the national elections, the broad minority coalition, which is today the majority, is mobilized, and they will vote.
Hillel.
I want to share with you something. I had like a setup, a gathering with some advisors. They were from the Republican and the Democrats side, and I asked them, I asked them both questions. One, on the Democratic side, will the American people choose Hillary Clinton only because they need to choose a woman eventually in the United States? And on the other side, the Republicans. You don't see, we had this issue of leadership, of a character of a leader, the image of a leader on the, let's say, left side of the political map here in Israel. And Isaac Herzog was not actually the image of a leader. And it seems that the Republicans are also suffering from this. And we know that it's a lot during elections. It's a lot about prestige. It's a lot about how you look, how you talk, how you manage. Because Hillary Clinton is coming with a lot of background, but it seems that the Republicans are not giving an alternative, like a really good alternative.
We are going to have a primary campaign. It's going to last the better part of a year. And it's going to put all of these potential candidates, and perhaps others that we don't even know about, in front of the American public. And they're going to have to demonstrate their knowledge about foreign policy and domestic policy and so on. We also have, in our gubernatorial or former gubernatorial potential candidates, like Walker and Bush and others, leaders who have actually worked in government and have done so successfully. The achievements of Scott Walker in Wisconsin in terms of the budget, he's won 3 elections there in 4 years, despite the Democratic attempts to recall him and defeat him on almost every occasion, are really remarkable. What Kasich has done in Ohio is to build coalitions between Republicans and Democrats, notwithstanding the demographic changes in that very changing, mutable state, have been very impressive. I mean, one of the things that the American people is upset about with Obama in the last 6 years is not just his foreign policy failures, but the fact that he has shown himself to be an inexpert leader. I mean, just in terms of running things. And that's one of the reasons why many people think in our party that the candidate is going to be someone with real experience, and not someone like Hillary Clinton, by the way, who really missed the boat as Secretary of State across the board. All of those things that I mentioned, she was tied to.
Should she be elected only because she is a woman and the United States didn't experience until
she has more experience than any of the Republican candidates. First of all, sitting for 8 years in the White House as the First Lady, she learned a lot about how things work, and she also was given responsibility. Secondly, as a senator from New York, and thirdly, as Secretary of State, she has a great degree of experience, and the fact that she is a woman is only an advantage in this case. And I suggest it will be very interesting to come.
What you can say about Rand Paul.
Rand Paul is not a woman.
No, and
No,
he's
but-
Maybe he'll know something that we don't. I don't know.
No, but no, Rand Paul, I think he's really quite far out. He'll be a very interesting candidate, but I suggest we come back again a year from now and see who will be facing Hillary Clinton, and then we will be in a better position to explain why Hillary Clinton will be elected in 2016.
Lucy, I think Hillary's gender is an asset for her. There's no question about it, but it's not enough. I think people are. We've had an experience in 2008 when someone was picked because of his external characteristics, and for the precedent.
He rescued the American economy, which was heading towards a depression,
for the precedent,
and has rebuilt, and we have the lowest
value of electing somebody
we have
from
the
that background.
lowest unemployment rate in many years.
You know,
we have economic growth,
I have only one
and
thing
we
to
have
tell
withdrawn all of the troops
This is
from
how we-
Iraq.
this
I
is-
have only one thing to tell
Lucy,
you.
I'm
looking
yielding to you.
for the next year and a half with you guys.
It's
Thank you
it's
very
at
much.
least going to be raucous.
So we can say
2 minutes and I'll be back.
2 minutes.